Hey writers, I am so glad you're here and we are going to really get into it today. So today's topic is the top 5 mistakes that new writers make that you are going to avoid as you write your first book, because you're going to start off ahead of the game because you're here, you're watching this video, you're educating yourself, and you're using all of my 20 years of experience in the writing and publishing industry that I am condensing for you to help you write with excellence. It took me about 8 to 10 years to learn how to write really, really well, and we are going to accelerate that for you. So these are the top 5 mistakes not to make when you're writing a book. Number 1, not planning or brainstorming. And I talk about this all the time. It's so important. Yes, I hated it when I was a young writer, like a teenager and a college student. But it's so super important because you've got to know where your book is going. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have every single detail fleshed out. It means that you need to have an idea of your chapters if you're writing a nonfiction book and your story arc if you're writing a fiction book. You want to know where you're starting, what's in the middle, and where it's going. Just like with a cake, you need to know the order of operations. I made that mistake when I first started baking. I'm like, oh, we can just throw all the ingredients in and just mix it up and go. And as I cooked different things and especially baked different things, no, there really is an importance to the order of operations. If you put the yeast in your flour and your salt and not in hot water and sugar, that yeast is not going to do anything. It needs that sugar and hot water to thrive on, and that salt will kill it. So there's an importance to knowing the process. So the process for you is brainstorming and outlining. Now, next is not starting with a strong hook. You want to, just like the hook does with the fish, hook your reader in from the very beginning of your book. Now, this doesn't mean it has to be wild and outrageous and over the top. It just needs to be something that captures their interest. So what's going to interest your reader from absolute page 1? So you want to keep that in mind. Then it's telling instead of showing. So this absolutely took me forever to learn, because when I started getting my first novel in the hands of critique partners, they were like, show, don't tell, show, don't tell. And I'm like, well, show me what that means. Quit telling me, because I really didn't understand. But showing instead of telling goes something like this. So Barbara went to a coffee shop and she got her coffee and she sat down and she noticed something funny. Now, you have an idea kind of what's going on, right? But to show you, Barbara opened the door and the bell jingled above her head as she stepped into the dark, plush coffee shop. Sofas to her right and bar stools to her left. A couple at a far table leaned in together having a conversation. She strode across the floor and said hello to the barista. I almost forgot that word. The barista looked to the left and right and refused to meet her eyes and said, "What do you want?" Okay, so we know something's going on. We know Barbara's in the coffee shop, but we don't know like what the deal is. Now, isn't that showing instead of telling so much better? And if I'd planned it out, that was totally off the cuff. I had an idea, but I just went with it in the spur of the moment. You're there, you're feeling it with her. You kind of get the atmosphere. Maybe you could even smell the coffee, even though I didn't talk about it. So there are times for telling, but 90% of the time you want to show your reader where you want to take them. And this can be true even with nonfiction writing. Now, there's going to be more telling, obviously, because you're trying to teach lessons. But when you tell those stories, when you're connecting with your reader, you really want to show them the way to where you are going. Now, number 4, yes, or number 4 mistake to avoid, and that's writing too much or not enough. So overwriting or underwriting. Know your genre, know your word count goal, and know what your reader expects. If you are writing a suspense novel, you're not going to write 30,000 words. But if you're writing like a quick spiritual guide, like these are some amazing lessons I learned from reading through the Bible in a year, then maybe that could be 30,000 words. Like, it's possible. But you want to look at what the industry standards are for your genre and your target audience. And you don't want to overwrite that. You don't want to underwrite it. And there is a range, but you want to make sure you're sticking with what your reader's looking for. And top mistake number 5, hitting submit on your first draft. You don't ever want to do that, because we all can improve our writing, and whether we reread it or I highly recommend getting somebody else's eyes on that manuscript, then that's what you do before you send it to an editor or an agent. And you can hire a professional editor to go through it and help teach you how to do that along the way. You can join a critique group. You can join a group like my Call to Write program, where we walk through manuscripts in 6 months and we help each other perfect it and write with excellence. There's a lot of different options out there. So just make sure you get eyeballs on that manuscript before you submit it, because I guarantee I just forgot the word. See, this is why I write and I don't speak. But your chances of getting a contract skyrocket if you have edited that manuscript before you submit it. So those are top 5 mistakes. Come back for the next 5.